Joining me today to talk about sports and politics is State Senator Dave Rader, but I think a lot of people know you as coach.
Yep.
Are you amazed when you look at your life story and everything you did before politics and now you're in politics, do you feel the timing is just right because you're writing sports betting and NIL legislation?
No, you have to feel that way, right? And why it all came together here, I don't know. But here we are, and we're dealing with those two issues.
Let's start with sports betting. I know you made the case in February. This is something your voters ask you for all the time.
Yeah, they do.
Are you in favor of it yourself with everything?
I'm in favor of it because we're missing revenue for the state. This is not a conversation about whether we should have betting or not. The state made that decision, 2 decades ago? So we have betting and we have wagering. We have gambling in Oklahoma now. One aspect we don't have is sports gaming. Well, I don't know why it's left out. Should have been in there because we have many Oklahomans crossing the state lines to place bets on sports. Well, that should stay in Oklahoma, and that will help our general revenue and keep more people in the state. So that was the impetus in my mind why we should do it.
Is it weird that we're betting on sports now?
Well,
of course, Pete Rose did it.
Well, they've been doing it for years, and we have a way to do it legally. So let's find a way to do that. Let's find a way to do that, and let's keep the dollars here. And this is not a moral question of wagering or not to wage. It is just an expansion of wagering because we've already decided we're going to do it.
Do you share some of the concerns? I had State Representative Mickey Dollins, who played at SMU. He mentioned the NCAA had that, some people are hazing students on campus if they miss a bet and things like that. Do you have those concerns about maybe we shouldn't be betting on student performance, but teams themselves at all?
That's a great question. You would never want that to happen. And of course, if somebody would haze an athlete, then shame on them. That's not why an athlete plays. And they never think about. I guess there has been some in the past. They thought about the point spread, but that's not what an athlete is about. So I am not concerned about that. No. Has there been history with that problem? Yes, there has been, but that is not enough of a concern to stop what we would be doing because those games still receive bets on them now. They're just not inside our state boundaries.
And I know some people had talked about, we'll add the protections after legalization. We can always add protections after it passes and things like that.
Well, if we need protections to do it when we pass it.
I covered one of your NIL bills, I think it was last session, and I sensed some frustration as to where things have. Yeah.
I'm not a big fan.
Well, I was going to say, I think one of your quotes was, I think the sport has changed forever. Where do we go with NIL to protect the?
There is no direction. There are no guidelines. There are no bylaws with our NIL now. Again, I'm not in the college venue anymore, but I hear from my friends, and they're all the time saying, well, they say we're going to do it this way. And they say, well, who is they? Because every time the NCAA wants to make a rule, then some college sues them and says, no, we want to do it our own way. And then we have chaos, which is what we have now. So they're trying to put a lasso around it. And I hear there's going to be a roster adjustment, and I hear there's going to be a cap on the money. You hear all these things, but there's always going to be somebody that's going to bust it.
That's my fear, and I think you shared a little bit of this on the Senate is, well, the state of Alabama passes something, and then all of a sudden we have to pass something because we can't recruit. And then Texas does their thing, like my mom can be my agent now. Exactly. Where does this one-upping stop?
I don't know. I don't know where it's going to stop. If we're going to do this, we live in a free market, capitalistic society. That's the country we live in. We're not going to argue the merits or non-merits of that. That's where we are. A person should be able to work wherever they can find work. Nobody's going to argue with that. That's where it needs to be. If they can find work, they can find work. The issue comes in my opinion, is once they become an employee of the university. Are they still a student then, or are they an employee? Are they student athletes, or are they student employees? Are they taxed the same way as a student in the cafeteria? These questions have to be resolved. And who's signing the check? Is the university signing the check, or is it some third party signing the check? So who's the person going to work for? Who are they beholding to? There's a lot of questions.
Well, are our universities concerned with the one-upping as you've talked to them about
Sure
this kind of
are.
legislation?
That's why we have an NIL bill. The NIL bill is not needed in Oklahoma. We're a right-to-work state. You can work anywhere you want to. You don't have to work here. You can go to Brahms. You can work there if you want to. But what was needed is that our flagship university said that, well, we need this bill so the NCAA will see that we have a law that says our athletes can work wherever they want to work. Well, we don't need that as a state. They just need it in this private organization called the NCAA, which they voluntarily joined in the first place and said, we'll join this and we'll abide by your laws. Well, unless we don't like your laws.
When you think back to your coaching days, does this make the job even harder?
It has to be. I don't know how the coaches are doing it. Just the constant change of personnel. College coaches, if you talk to them, you have to win to keep your job, okay? You have to do that. But some of the greatest satisfaction, maybe the most satisfaction, is seeing boys become men and have an influence on seeing how they mature. And they realize the value of education and where that can take them, and see the value of taking on responsibility, and then learning the best thing that you could ever learn in any sport that you play in. And football is the best sport to learn this from, is that if you get knocked down, you get back up. And these are the things that we have so long endured ourselves to in athletics, because we love to see that competition and people strive to do things that they thought that maybe they can't do. And now I'm hearing from coaches, the young man walks in and says, how much you're going to pay me, not can you help me become a man. And I think for coaches, that's a huge, huge change, because now am I just going to coach a player, or am I going to coach a person? And they're two distinct, different ways to coach.
Now let me ask you this, because I did have a coworker, and I'm running short on time.
I'm sorry, I'm talking
no,
a lot.
you're fine. You're fine. I've wanted to have this conversation for a while. I did have a coworker who played softball at TU, and she told me, she goes,
And she was really good.
Yes.
And I played
Sarah Whaley.
I played against her dad in high school, and he was a heck of a ball player.
And she would say, I would love to have had a little cash in my pocket when I played.
Sure.
And you were an athlete yourself as well before a coach. Should there be some cash in the pocket for some of these players? Just maybe, not necessarily buy a Corvette, but groceries.
well, that's my point, is that let them find a job where they can find a job. And if Sarah could go find a job and they were going to use her likeness, then let them pay for her likeness. That should be what America is about and Oklahoma is about. You're right to work. But for years, the collective called the NCAA would not let you have a job. And so they fought it for so long. If we would just opened up 40 years ago and said, you can have a job. You can have a job. Go get a job wherever you want. We wouldn't be in the mess that we're in now, because all of these side jobs would have been worked out and they would have had cash in their pockets. But now we're asking the university to write the check and pay them. That's a huge difference. And I don't think that's what they wanted to do 40 years ago when all this talk started.
Senator, thank you so much for your time. I'm out of it.
All right.
I appreciate
Thanks.
it.